Okay. Okay, so I will call to order the April 15th meeting of the Port and Commerce Advisory Board. We will ask Darian to lead us in the pledge. I ask that you take the hats off and silence your cell phones.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Will the clerk call a roll?
Roll call for today's meeting. Draper?
Here.
Atwood?
Here.
Frew?
Here.
Altermat? Here. Scudder? Here. Regis is excused. And Chair Jaffa?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. So we have a place for citizen comments. These would be on any topic. You have up to 3 minutes to speak. And anybody in the audience care to make a comment ahead of the meeting? And I assume there's no one signed in. Okay, so the next item would be the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. On the consent agenda are the minutes from the last meeting, and there were no resolutions. So where would we see the minutes? Where would
They should be a draft in
Okay.
your packet.
Okay.
And we will need a motion in a second.
Yeah. So we need a motion to approve the agenda.
A motion to approve.
And a second. Okay. All in favor of the agenda and consent agenda?
Aye.
Okay. That's the be marked unanimous. We have no resolution. Special orders, proclamations, we have none. In your packet is the city manager's report. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to look at that. It comes online. It also comes in your packet when the clerk sends it to you. It really is a very informative piece, and I hope it's something that can continue for a long time. It gives a pretty accurate description of what's going on in the town as far as department by department and activities of the administration. Who's representing the administration today? Oh, okay. Okay. So we'll go on and ask, are there any input from the city beyond the city manager's report?
Ryan, do you have any?
That's you, Ryan.
I don't have any extra input at the moment. I'm just kind of sitting here for Tony, listening basically.
Oh no, you can't get off that easy. You guys busy?
We are busy, yes. Our lift schedules are picking up in the harbor. We're assembling our new 50-ton travel lift come Monday, and going to be disassembling the other one once the new one is assembled. Our North Dock facilities are stacked. We're busy all the way through into August as of right now. We have a lot of wharfage, a lot of different vendors coming in using the facilities, so we're pretty busy over there for the foreseeable future, and there's quite a few that are not on our schedule as of yet that are waiting to get on the schedule, so we're just waiting for confirmation. But we're going to have an extremely busy summer over at North Dock. Looking forward to our new travel lift on Monday.
Are you guys fully staffed?
We're fully staffed right now, yeah.
Good. I might remind whoever might listen that the harbor is one of the revenue generating parts of our government here, and it's important that they operate smoothly. Okay, so we'll move on to other reports. The Alaska Railroad has a pretty interesting inclusion in our packet, and ask Vice Chair Atwood to put on his other hat, give us a little brief on the railroad.
Yep, thank you, Chair Jaffa. And just to second what the administration was saying about the North Dock, yeah, we're seeing some of that as well. So there's a lot of freight activity in our yard and dock. So I have included some resiliency project information. What you see here in the packet, pages 20 and 21, that's essentially our plan for going forward with our freight dock extension, and which is in process, but additionally, we want a full build out for the width indicated, approximately 320 feet for the entire length of the dock. That would give us a lot of operational space and some of the things we need for other types of vessels potentially. We have some grants in play, and we'll know around June, I believe. But anyway, that's what that graphic is in there for, and you can kind of look at the timelines, and you can look at the diagramming. The next page that I've got in the packet is a concept for the pedestrian tunnel, which sort of dovetails with our terminal development. And I have looked into having pedestrian flow, foot traffic through the former coal tunnel. And so that's what that is, and it's a rough draft. But anyway, we're dedicating money to it. We're going forward with it. I can see that the turn radius in there that's depicted, we're not doing that. That's clearly going to take up too much real estate. But anyway, just it's a concept, and I'm just want to keep the public and the city administration kind of up to speed on our plans to do that. And a couple of other things. So the passenger terminal building, we hope to get a conditional certificate of occupancy this month. Tenants are going to start moving in shortly. My railroad office should get some furniture by the 20th. Anyway, we're under pressure to get into the building, and that is all happening. The passenger dock that we're currently finishing up, we expect to take ships as the first one's May 14, and so it's going to be a race to the finish. And having said that, we're not going to have full construction until later in the season or the autumn. So we've got the old piling dock mostly demolished, and some amount of it will remain in order to put a temporary trestle in place and put the large floating components in place, the cruise dock, and the ramp, and will operate for the summer, and then there'll be full completion at a later date. So that's something that's being modified. And we hope to have the terminal parking lot functional, but it won't be finished until June. I mean, we got to get paving done, striping done, all of that sort of thing. So right now, we're just working on getting the main parking area and drives out north of the terminal ready to go, at least functional. And it's my understanding that Metco can come in and do that grading work in 5 or 6 days, but we're getting to that point. And then I already mentioned the coal conveyor tunnel. I think I may have mentioned at the last meeting that we're working with the municipal electric utility to underground some power lines that are out in our northern yard area, and that's to facilitate loading in our yard. And the yard is also going to undergo some track upgrades this summer. So anyway, another aspect of our cruise dock project also is the shore power, so that is also taking place. We have several projects going on at once. We have smaller things we're doing. We filled approximately 4,000, added rather about 4,000 cubic yards of gravel from our parking area, which we're still working on, into our north yard to fill. So we're creating more laydown space. And we also took probably an additional 2,000 cubic yards from the waterfall deposits recently as well. So we're moving forward as fast as we can with yard development. And then we have some other smaller things. We're doing some freight dock repair. We have a fender that needs some work. That RFP's out on the street. And today I spent the morning with Captain Steve Carmel. He's the administrator for MARAD with the U.S. Department of Transportation. And as I mentioned earlier, we have some grants in. So it was good to talk with someone on the ground and show them kind of what our pressures are and what our traffic is like and what our cargo movements look like and how we need to develop a secondary industrial road and just all of the things that are happening. And there were representatives from Tote and Senator Sullivan's office as well. And I understand they've got other meetings today, I think, perhaps with JAG and Catalyst. But anyway, yeah, busy morning, and that's my report.
Good. Questions for the report? Deb?
Yeah, thanks. I had a tour of the facility last week, and it was great. Very exciting to see it. And the guys there were excited that they were going to be on time and getting it completed, the facility. I have a couple of questions. The ship that's there right now, the Sarah Lynn?
Yes.
What is that?
So that is essentially a science ship. It's contracted to the military. And yeah, they had some scientific equipment that they needed to take care of, and they've done a crew change, and so anyway, it's a pretty critical stop for them, but yeah.
All right. And the last question, across Port Avenue on that north side, all the cement block, and what, I'm kind of new to this here, so I'm catching up, but is that going to be there, or is it going anywhere?
So that's a great question. That's just one of the operational issues we have at hand. So just for those of you listening, we have the terminal building. North of the terminal building, we have a parking area. A little further north, you get to Port Avenue, and just north of that, we have what was formerly some retention pond area with a lot of green belt, and that was filled and leveled for operational space. The contractor now demolishing the dock, that has been demolishing the dock, they've been taking what we call pile caps, big chunks of cement. They remove, the piles, and they haul it out there to that north area, and they've stacked them like cordwood. A couple acres now. And that material is, the cement, is being broken down into 6-, and the steel's being extracted. We hope to use some of that broken cement, and it will have to be kind of moved to another location. We can use it as fill, perhaps. But yes, so we have, more than an acre of these cement pile caps, and they can't be processed fast enough. So I'm probably going to have a cruise season without that operational space. The occupant is, the contractor is just going to be using that through the summer. That's all I can say.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Just a quick question on this proposed tunnel.
Yes.
Just for clarification, is the plan for this all to be underground, or just
no.
until you get to Port Avenue and then you go underground and then come back?
Yeah, so the tunnel itself is just the width of the length. The length of the tunnel is essentially the width of Port Avenue. And, but we'll have an approach at a certain grade from the south, and ultimately it would be asphalt. and something suitable to pull a roller bag, right, for a middle-aged visitor who could be going to the depot perhaps, or coming from. And so then there is getting up to the sidewalk on the north side of Port Avenue, if you're going to head, west to the depot. The grade that goes up, we're going to try to keep it as shallow as possible. And we will maintain the pedestrian crossing that's on the surface of the road. Hopefully that won't get as much use if we have this alternate way. Yep.
So the underground is primarily just under Port Avenue?
Yes.
Right? The rest of it's
Yeah.
above ground? Okay.
Yeah, that heavy black line, that's kind of a envisioned route generally.
Thank you.
Other question? I had one or two. You did mention a secondary route, so the route to the north out towards the airport is still being considered as access port? Route?
Yes, Chair Jaffa. So to answer your question, we have, and I can perhaps for the next meeting for informational purposes provide some of the design for the road where it's essentially going to go. But if you imagine that north yard, it goes parallel a couple hundred yards, I guess, west of what would be that airport frontage road. It has the cul-de-sac at the end. We would have a road going north through our yard, and ultimately it would connect to the existing road, and then to the highway.
Okay. And second, your title here is Accredited Maritime Port Executive and Seward Port Manager. Is that also project manager for this project?
I am not doing any project management.
Oh, okay. It seems like there's a lot going on there.
There is a lot going on there, and so we have contractors, we have railroad engineer staff who are doing quality control inspections regularly, and so those things are being taken care of. But I am, for my part, just trying to manage the traffic and the land use permitting and the other various activities around some of the work.
Very good. Well, I think you're doing great, Dwayne.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so our next item here would be a chamber report. We don't have the chamber report in a written form at all, huh? Okay. Copper River Seafood Report. I'll get into this just a little bit. I did at one point talk to Eddie Wilbur with Copper River Seafood, and I asked him if he could present some information. He sent us a letter that's in your packet. Actually, he went through his corporate, and they sent us a letter after they vetted it. And it gives a position of where Copper River Seafood is, and they mentioned several things. What I had asked them, the same thing that I had asked others, was, where do we come from, where are we now, and where are we going? The long and short of it, and what can Seward do to help where we're going? I think we'll come back with a common theme that Copper River Seafood sees at Crane as pretty essential, and we'll probably talk about that some more. But I don't want to go any further than that, because the letter's in the packet, and the information will probably be gone over to some degree through Rhonda and Jim's group. So, the next item would be presentations, and that would bring us to Rhonda and Company. Jim is on the list, but I think a better presentation will be given by Rhonda. I think you'll agree, Jim. Okay, and Rhonda, you've got some guests that are on the phone. I'd ask you to introduce them, give us a presentation regarding the fishing business, and then there'll be a question and answer period.
Oh, yes. I have some handouts here, and I am going to, I guess I'll start. Should I start here?
Sure.
I kind of...
I'd ask anybody who's speaking to introduce themselves, even if Rhonda does it now. If you can speak and we can recognize your voice, would be helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, Rhonda Hubbard, Inside City Limits and part of the fishing industry, and I had gathered a panel of people that will be presenting to you today. It will be myself, my husband is going to yield most of his time to me, I think, but he'll be available for Q&A. And then I got Andy Wilder is here as a harvester, tender. He'll introduce more about what he does as a commercial fisherman as well. Kit Durnall is here from A&E Foods. And then we also have two representatives on the phone for Silver Bay Seafoods. So I thought we could, probably after me, we could have Silver Bay come in and then Kit and commercial fishermen, however order you want to do it. So anyway, I want to first thank PACAB and especially Chairman Jaffa for keeping our local commercial fishing sector on your radar. With the panel we have presenting today, I expect you will get a better understanding of what this sector brings to Seward and its contribution to our local and surrounding economy. As a brief intro of myself and those who may not know me, I am third generation born and raised Sewardite. I grew up fishing summers in Chignik Lagoon on the Alaska Peninsula where my father was born and raised. My dad was one of the pioneers of the herring fishery as well as an accomplished salmon fisherman, and he was probably the first one to land a 100-ton herring set in Seward's Harbor back in 1969 or 70. During the spring season, about this time of year, I worked at my parents' processing plant beyond the waterfall where Res Bay Seafoods just moved from. There we extracted and packed herring roe for the Japanese market and later served as a landing, buying, and processing station for halibut, sablefish, and salmon. Years later, I met my husband Jim there in '87 during a halibut delivery, and a year after, we've been married ever since. Working in the fishing industry, I was able to pay my way through college, which included a 7-month program in Nagoya, Japan, graduating with a business degree and specialty in international business from the University of Washington, while also picking up a little Japanese along the way. Along with my husband Jim, I currently manage administrative compliance and offload logistics for the fishing vessel Cruise Off, which happens to be the smallest catcher processor in Alaska. I also own and operate J&R Fisheries, which manages larger international, national, and local sales of products frozen on the Cruise Off, as well as trades of other Alaskan seafood items like shrimp, scallop, salmon, to local and lower 48 wholesale customers and or retail accounts sent via FedEx or freight forwarding companies. Between the two entities managed between my husband and I, we basically have a direct market, vertically integrated business model that manages product landings and sales logistics through the supply chain, from the harvest vessel to customers' homes or fine dining, and probably a more raw and rhyming version of that model could be described as boat to throat. We have recently been selling more of our sablefish to a secondary processor, and I emphasize this because I really firmly believe that secondary processing is needed and more of that is needed in Alaska, but this processor's over in Kenai, who puts out a beautiful pin bone out or pin bone in fillet product. They also put up salmon, halibut, rockfish, and more, which they buy out of Seward and other parts of the peninsula, and then they take the primary product and turn it into a more usable product for the local restaurants and consumers, fillet form, and then actually send that back to our local restaurants and other consumers. So in more usable form or edible form, I guess, presentation form. So I cannot emphasize enough that our local harvesters, processors, secondary processors, supply companies, freight forwarders, land and sea and air transporters operating in Seward, the peninsula, and Anchorage are working very hard to bring good Alaskan seafood to not only our local and national consumers, but also our local visitors who travel from distances away to eat good Alaskan seafood and then often order more of it when they return home so they can relive the American dream through their palate. So now to wrap up here, I just wanted to leave you with some memories of the socio-economic impacts that the commercial fishing industry has on our community and surrounding areas. So I'm going to give you a little pop quiz. So most of the answers are likely in the handouts I just gave you, but don't bother looking at those right now. You can study those later. It's not a difficult quiz, but they do include a plethora of recent economic data that is compiled by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute and United Fishermen of Alaska, and it comes from several state and federal agencies and departments that license, manage, and regulate our fisheries. So the first question is, here we go. Alaska comprises of what percentage of U.S. commercial harvest? Is it less than 50% or over 60%?
Over 60.
63%.
I'll use that answer, okay. Question 2. Alaska is, and by the way, I'm sorry that those copies you have are messy. They were my work copies, and I meant to have sent you very clean copies via email, but apparently they didn't get across the wire. So anyway, Alaska is home to how many of the 20 U.S. top landed ports? Is for volume, and I'll make it easy. It's somewhere between 1 and 10. So if you want to call out a number, this is again for volume. Just guess. Don't look. Top 10. It's between 1 and 10. So what?
Is it 10?
It is 9. So very close. Very good. And for value, again between 1 and 10. Anybody?
5.
Just guess.
9.
It's 8, okay? So yeah, we have 2.69 billion pounds as of 2023. Okay. Question 3 is, what wholesale value of Alaska seafood have processors produced? Is it approximately 2.5 billion, 3.5 billion, or over 4 billion? A, B, or C?
C.
Good. It's actually 4.2 billion. Okay, question 4. Annual average total statewide fish tax collected between 22 and 25 is it A, 30 to 40 million, B, 40 to 50 billion, or C, 50 million plus? Average statewide fish tax collected.
C.
Very good. It's 52.4. She's going to win some black cod. Surprise at the end. Okay. Number 5. Within the Kenai Peninsula, we're getting a little closer to home here. How many fishing vessels are home ported here in the area? And I'm talking the Kenai Peninsula general area. Is it 500 to 800, 800 to 1,000, or 1,000 plus vessels?
1,000 plus.
1,000 plus. Oh, she's really.
I see a pattern here.
Yeah. And she's a good test taker. Yep, and just be reminded that each of those vessels is a business. Okay. Number 6, we're almost done. Out of the 1,217 CFEC fishing permits located or held in the Kenai Peninsula Borough, the ex-vessel value of those has amounted to close to 100 million, 90 million, or 80 million?
99 million.
Oh, she peaked. 99.9 million, right. Close to 100 million. Okay, now we're really getting close to home. In the last 6 years, Seward and Kodiak have rivaled as the top landing port for which seafood item?
Salmon, sablefish.
Sablefish, right. Kodiak is ahead by 157,000 pounds. So, and I want to note that finally, in the last 2 years, 2 restaurants in Seward have finally put sablefish on their menu. So when you go out, please order sablefish. They just haven't been onto it as much as they should, given that we're one of the top landed ports. Okay, last question. In the last 6 years, which of the top 3 ports have landed the most halibut? Seward, Kodiak, or Homer?
Galactic year?
In the last 6 years, average. Seward, it's actually Homer. Homer is 3 million pounds. They've doubled Seward by, we're at 1.4. So just keep in mind halibut and sablefish are low volume, high value fisheries. So that's how that works. Okay, that's all I have, and maybe we want to have Silver Bay pick up from there and then.
Please, did we pass?
Or who? She gets the prize. Yeah, no. You guys keep studying, okay? And there's plenty of data and information out there. We have a lot of agencies and, like I said, departments that collect all this data. And we go have an annual meeting with Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute. They're always producing a lot. And a lot of this stuff, I'm surprised, isn't in the KPED bundle too of economic data. So it probably should be there as well.
It's not in there, you said?
I don't think it's as comprehensive as it should be.
Interesting.
And,
Why don't you, hang on,
Sure.
So we have some representative from Silver Bay on the phone?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Abby Frederick. I'm VP of External Affairs. You guys get me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Where are you at, Abby?
I'm based out of Juneau, and a part of my role for Silver Pay is tracking and hoping to make progress on some legislation important to the industry. So I'm kind of trapped here today, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Okay. Do you have a presentation for us?
Yeah, I appreciate Rhonda's overview of much of the commercial seafood industry, and I was going to talk a little bit about Silver Bay Seafoods and our role in the community of Seward. We're new members of the fishing community in Seward, so I'm going to provide an overview of that and some of the things that we're working on there.
Floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members of the advisory board, thanks for your focus on the commercial fishing industry and just being open to hearing these presentations today. Really appreciate being able to be here. Online, in addition to myself, who's tuning in, is Hunter Hammer. He is based out of Southeast for our operations, and he's our regional South Central fleet manager. So he's working with our fishermen, tendermen, to buy and direct fish to our operating facility. So
Do what?
Tuning in case there's some questions later.
There you go, thank you.
Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, now, that's better.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Silver Bay Seafoods is kind of a unique processor in that we are a fisherman-owned seafood company. We were built by and for fishermen. Started out in 2007 when a group of seiners kind of got together, pooled their savings, and decided to invest in processing their own catch to get some more value out of their catch and to share in the profits of the production of their fish. They were very successful in year one, and from there they grew at a rapid pace where there was interest from Southeast, Prince William Sound, Bristol Bay, False Pass, and Kodiak fishermen who kind of wanted to bring this fisherman-owned model to their region and their fisheries. And so up until last year, 2025, we had been kind of a primarily salmon company, aside from our Kodiak operations. And we had sort of a big change occur last year in April 2025, kind of at the tails of a lot of change and challenge in the seafood industry. Silver Bay decided to double down and acquire 50% of OBI, for which we now control and operate that business under the Silver Bay Seafood banner and with our other programs. Through this acquisition and change, this was our introduction to the Seward fishing community. We hadn't had operations in Seward prior to this, and we're new to much of the groundfish fisheries and relationships there as of last year. We had a really strong start with a significant salmon opportunity in Cook Inlet in 2025. Much of those fish came through the Seward facility, and in early 2026, we came out really strong with kind of firing up the plant early in response to fishermen needs and also the stronger markets for the groundfish like black cod, halibut, and Pacific cod. So we opened those doors, I think, earlier than they've seen in recent years there with that facility. We're pretty excited about that. We've also had some investments in this facility. When we acquired it, there was definitely some deferred maintenance that needed to get done, and we've dug into that kind of right away. We've had some roof repair projects, condenser projects, fire suppression system improvements, and we've been working with a local fire team there. We've also done some work on our ice house to provide better ice products to the fleet, which is really important to increasing the quality and value of their fish. So excited to get that rolled out, and we've only had the keys to this place for like 8 or 9 months. So a lot of work has been done in that short period of time. We, in addition to working with fishermen directly and providing opportunity for all of those small businesses, we have some unique partnerships with the community that may not be super visible all the time. So I wanted to share some of the ways that processors like Silver Bay are especially in Seward. So a unique one is that we store food in our cold storage facility for the Sea Life Center animals, and we're really excited to be working with them and find ways to do that even better and more cost effectively, but that's one way that we're partnering with that particular entity. We also provide food and store food for one of the local dog sledding tour companies. They buy black cod heads from us and we store it in our freezer, and we make that available to them as well. We partner with Providence on health initiatives for our workforce and community members in Valdez, Seward, and Kodiak. The commercial seafood sector is integrated into coastal communities and woven in the fabric of Alaska's economy in so many ways. Sometimes these connections, if you're not directly involved, they do tend to go overlooked, but you heard from Rhonda, local and state tax revenue is significant. Jobs, and I don't just mean those directly involved in processing, but there are, of course, on the processing line, fleet logistics, supply chain management, marketing, construction, refrigeration, administration, accounting, communications, safety, environmental, global sales. So we've got folks that are around the world selling Alaska's fishermen's products, and those are just a few of the more kind of direct seafood-related jobs, but we also provide a lot of opportunity to small business in addition to the commercial fishermen, their direct marketing businesses, tendering. They contribute to boatyard maintenance and repair and storage, fuel and parts, net mending, and these are people that live and work in Seward as well. In addition to these jobs, the seafood industry, and specifically Silver Bay, is involved in a lot of hunger relief programs like Sea Share. We do school food programs, and we have other many local food security programs for which we participate in. Commercial fisheries help sustain all fisheries through contributing funds for fisheries management and research. So it's through a lot of that tax revenue that many fisheries research and management programs are funded that benefit all stakeholders, not even just commercial fishermen. And so that's really important to the sustainability of all of our fisheries and the access to those fisheries. And one really important thing that the commercial sector offers to all Alaskans, but even in Seward, is general relief on shipping of goods coming to Alaska. Seafood is Alaska's #1 renewable resource for export, and this means that if seafood wasn't available to export, it would increase shipping costs for Alaskans. Without seafood to fill containers going south, all the goods that get in the containers to come north to all of us, to our grocery stores, where we go and get our eggs and bread and all the things that are already pretty high, it's an estimated 20% increase if seafood wasn't able to provide that export and relief on that, on the shipping costs. Alaska is dependent on all commercial fisheries that support our coastal communities. We need every fishery for the diversity of the markets and the volume to keep an economic base in many coastal communities. We need the volume of all fisheries to keep our processors open in many communities, especially those off the road system. A seafood economy provides jobs, tax revenue, infrastructure that would not otherwise exist in so many communities. There is no alternative or replacement economy. In addition, the direct relationship between seafood and the transportation sector is critical. And while we have all of these, connections to the seafood industry as it currently exists, the seafood industry is also working really hard on some strategies for a strong future to make things even better for fishermen and the communities for which we do all of this for. So right now, and one that we've been working on for a bit, Senate Bill 130 is a seafood product development tax credit, and what that means for communities like Seward is it's an incentive program that would, for every dollar that we're investing in value-add equipment in these plants to make these plants better and provide better or higher quality valued products, we would get a certain tax and credit from the state tax, not the local tax, the state tax. And increasing the value of the products that we are creating increases the tax revenue that you're receiving locally. So it's kind of like a win-win-win. It provides value to fishermen, it communities, it provides value to the processing sector, and Alaska to have more revenue in the future generated from more value products. This is a program that has been in place, but it's been limited to only certain species, so it's being expanded for all species, black cod, Pacific cod, salmon, all of them included in this program, and they're wanting to expand it for 10 years. And while we've been doing quite a bit of work in our facility in Seward to deal with deferred maintenance, being able to invest in value add is huge, not just for us, but for all seafood processing companies. So we're tracking that bill. It's made it through the Senate, and the House has it up next, and we're really hoping to see this one get wrapped up. ASME, so the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute, this is kind of the second piece that we've been working on, is to keep them funded, but specifically focusing their very limited funds on targeting domestic market growth. Obviously, we're exporting to markets across the globe, but increasing our stance in the U.S. Is a really great way to bring more value, and the ASME, Alaska Seafood Marketing Fund Institute, received about $5 million to target that, and we're already seeing that growth in the U.S. market for black cod and for salmon and other species. So we're really excited about that. And one of the other strategies that are on our list that are relevant is we've had this federal priority for a federal ban on the import of Russian seafood. And we've been able to keep that ban in place for several years now, and it was just renewed for another year. And that, kind of keeps Russia at bay from dumping all of their extremely low value, low price products on the market in the U.S. and allows us to sell our own seafood to the U.S. domestic space. And that just brings more value, again, to fishermen and to communities, and we're not competing with what they're trying to do, which is it's on their war over there. So these strategies combined are things that we're doing not only to stabilize the industry, but to improve things and to find growth in the sector. And so I thought those things would be important for this group to hear today. And I'm available for any questions.
Okay,
I think there may be some other folks that would like to speak, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Abby. Let me ask Rhonda, do we have another speaker?
Yeah, we had kids, and then that.
Okay. What would the board prefer, to ask questions of Abby at this point, or come back?
If Abby's available, I think we should probably continue with presentations. If she needs to go, we should probably ask some questions.
Yeah, so Abby, would you be able to stick around for a little bit?
Happy to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Rhonda?
So there's Kit Durham.
Hi, my name is Kit Dirtle. I'm a former resident of Seward. I moved to Seward in 1997 to work for the plant by the waterfall, Resurrection Baked Seafoods. I've spent 5 years there, and I switched over and fished for 10 years, and I went back to managing the plant by the waterfall for 9 years, and then I've been more recently employed with E&E Foods, and they operate out of Kenai, do all their production out of Kenai. So I've seen a lot that goes on in Seward. I am aware of how things work in Seward. I've seen a progression and in some cases a regression of things that go on in Seward. I'd like to point out, Rhonda mentioned that Seward and Kodiak are battling back and forth for lead on sablefish, sometimes halibut. It used to be it was Seward, and Seward is not necessarily actively pushing boats away, but they're not doing anything to draw commercial boats in. With Silver Bay taking over the management of OBI, Seward Fish, whatever it was previous, there was 3, sometimes 4 people, buyers, operating out of that Seward Fish plant. With Silver Bay taking over that operation, they've decided to keep that operation to themselves and maximize the production that they could do for themselves there, which pushed 3 buyers out of town. And there's no infrastructure in this town for those 3 buyers to somehow relocate. I'm one of those. I bought, over 2 million pounds of cod this winter across the dock. And I had to fight for space with Copper River. We came to an agreement, and we were working pretty nicely off of that dock. But the infrastructure's not there. We're working out of a 1978 boom truck. We're working with no water. There's 3 light poles there that have 2 fixtures each, and there's one of them that works part of the time. So the night deliveries, there's no light on there. Even though the infrastructure was there, it's just not taken care of. There's no power, so I operate tailgate style. Open up the back of my truck, I got a generator that runs my printer, I have to use a hotspot off my phone in order to get Wi-Fi so that I can do fish tickets. And it's a struggle, and not everybody's going to go through those steps to make business work in this town. So we could be better than Kodiak, but we're not actively drawing them in. There's no infrastructure here to like Homer has. Homer has a city dock, they have a city ice house, they have power, they have water, they have cranes. We have a city crane in the north dock. Right now, the Tuscany is sitting in front of it. I don't have access to that. And they've got it set up for heavy lifting, not efficiency. So it's a very slow crane. It would take forever to unload boats. The dock is great. We could run multiple buyers off of that dock. I'd be happy to position myself over there. The one issue is, you've seen the signs alongside the road, we're in road restrictions. 85% between here and Anchorage, it's 75% between the north dock and the highway. And so now I've lost some of my income because I can only load my trucks 75% to get up and down the road. So these are just a few of the things that, the challenges that we've had this winter trying to just do business out of this town. I would like to see that improve. I would like to see a cold storage. I would like to see the crane, some sort of power source that's available to people that are working off the docks. And then storage that's near the harbor. We're utilizing a corner, but as Ryan said earlier, they're going to be building a new 50-ton lift and dismantling, I'm assuming, the other 50-ton lift, and that space is really going to be good for that. I think that we've worked out the details where we're still able to store, but that's the only space around the harbor, really, that you can store that's close by. So, so there's a bunch of issues, and there's a bunch of opportunities, and I think that's a better way to word that, is you get buyers in this town, you draw fishermen off the water and into the town, the fish tax adds up. I think that we're missing the opportunities here. I want to continue to do business out of here. We want to buy blackcod and halibut. We want to be competitive with Homer and Kodiak. We want those guys to come straight in here. We want them to spend their money in town. But Dana Besker is a big buyer in all of the state of Alaska. He's not buying in this town, and he always has. And so, plants are opening up to run Dana Besker's fish. And so, is it best for me as a buyer? No. The competition's not. Is it good for this town? Yes. But I think having that opportunity would be, very, very important. I don't know if I have anything really else. I think it'll come down to questions. I'm happy to stay and answer any of those. I love Seward, but it's I moved out in 2024. I'm no longer a resident of Seward because can't manage a hardware store, we don't have a plumbing store, we don't have an Elks Club, we don't have all those things that make a community. I needed a piece of wire this big, and I couldn't find it, and I sold my house.
Okay. Rhonda?
Hello, board. My name is Andy Wilder. I'm a city resident, and I also own a commercial fishing business that harvests ground fish and tender salmon. And I just, basically, I want to echo everything that Kit said. And it's to stress that it's as a harvester, having competition for your fish is a big plus for us, and it's going to bring in, if you have 4 or 5 buyers, you're going to have all sorts of boats interested in coming here because there's competition and they're going to get a better price. And Seward, so it's on the, it's an easy port to get to. It's close to the fishing grounds. It's easy to fly out of, and I really think that the city should be focusing on expanding that. And one of the things Kit's talking about Crane and a lot of the infrastructure, but just the harbor and the way the harbor's managed. Basically, we've got to change the policies so that all the docks and all the prime locations for people to do business and unload fish and get on and off is not a bunch of salmon tenders that operate in the summer, and on a bad salmon season their contract gets put up, and so of course nobody else is in the harbor, so they go and they tie up their boats. It's like at Safeway, everybody wants to get the closest place to the store. They pull in as close as they can get, and oh man, if you can drive your car down, even better, but we need to, I believe that we should have policies in the horseshoe area near where OBI and even like west of that, west of where the old travel pit is, that there should be like a policy of, no more than 1 month at a time or something so that when those people come in there, they can tie their boat up, and people that are fishing, they're going to be in for storms, or they might be tied up for a week or something, but not having any place to do business at very limited spaces because of boats that are just sitting there tied up doing absolutely nothing. Some of them aren't even on shore power, and they're in the prime location of where, Kit could run his crane up and operate, or Copper River, any of the buyers. And so I think there really needs to be a focus on, we have the infrastructure, a lot of it's just moving things around and managing it a little bit so that it works. Those guys aren't generating any money, they're just tied up. They could be tied up on that float, on the east float, or I don't know what you call that, but that's what Homer does. They have all their big crab boats and stuff. You tie up on the dock, 3 out. And I've even talked to Norm Regis about this, and he said that there's already a plan in place when they built that dock that was engineered to have big boats tied up 3 out, and there's a tie-up plan and everything else. And I think some of those boats that are clogging up the area where, people are buying ground fish in the winter, those boats could get moved out of there and put in a place, where they don't need access. And, it could be a really good thing. I think there was more activity in Seward this winter than there has been. And, I think Homer's more been for cod has been the big port, but it's actually Seward, I think, bought a lot more cod than Homer did this year, and I think maybe the fish, the resources may be moving a little bit to the east, and there's fish around, and I think it's going to be busy. We're going to have the same thing next year. So, it would really help if the harbor, if we could just make a couple policy changes to where we had some room to work, and there was room for some boats to tie up in the wintertime in January, February, March, instead of having all the salmon tenders clogging up when they're not doing anything. That's all I got.
Can I ask a
That's a lot.
quick question about that?
Yeah.
So just to clarify, I'm not very, I don't know a lot about this, but, so you're saying that there's boats that are tied up in what you would consider a prime location that aren't really actively doing business, and are they not paying for those spaces?
No.
Or are they just tied up there to hang out, or?
No, they're paying, but there's just really no policy in place. That it's a drive-up dock, right? So you can drive a truck up or crane up, and I can unload, bring gear down, crane it off. Okay. Well, I can't do that on the X float, or what float is that? The east float? Z float, like Z float. It's a walk-down floating dock, right? So I can't unload gear there because I can't get my car next to it, right? They can't buy fish off that dock. Okay. Because they got to have a crane.
So there's boats that are docked at this dock that can be used for other actively used that could be.
Yeah, and a lot of them are just salmon tenders. That's all they do, and they just get done. They tie up, and they're there until June of this year. They don't do anything in between. They're just, and it's like those boats. We got to stop letting those guys use all the good available working space.
That's the only question I have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. That brings a lot to the discussion. Okay, Jim.
I guess I'll wrap it up, but I'm Jim Hubbard, and I live in the city limits, and I've been here since '88, I think. Actually, my first exposure to Seward was '79, bringing fish in here, and there's been a lot of changes around the harbor, obviously, in that time, but I think all the points have been made have been very valid, and I agree with Andy on the dockage space, because we come in with a boat and we gotta move equipment around or shuffle around, and there's only so many places to do that, and you gotta be able to get up against the dock to hoist stuff on and off and everything, and so it makes it really difficult. And then it's like, well, they can't get a guy to move, because where does he live? The boat's just sitting there, there's nobody tending to anything, so and then like, and now we're gonna be up against it. I'm up in the shipyard right now over in Jag, but when we come back out, we're gonna need to get up against the dock for a couple days, because we got a lot of stuff that we stripped off the boat. We gotta get it back aboard and reassemble things. And the T-dock, but it's also a fuel dock. So if I'm on the T-dock doing work, then I got a tug or somebody else comes in for fuel, then we gotta get out of the way. Or, we try to, we stay in communication with each other and try to work those details out, but it makes it hard to get things done. And then guys are blocking the docks like they are. It's pretty much impossible. But I wanted to talk too about all the different vendors that the industry uses. I mean, we got, as I mentioned, JAG already. We also got Catalyst. We got Seward Heavy Industrial. We got a fish house, but we don't have a plumbing shop anymore. We don't have electrical. It's you've heard it. And basically, when you have a one-horse town, which I see is going on, if you're going to put all your eggs in a tourism basket, the town isn't. It's not a town for the community. It's not a town for the people that live here. It's a town for people who come in. I call it Seward Summer Camp. But so you make your money and you leave. Why would you stick around? I mean, we had an interesting winter this year. It kind of reminded me of some of the other ones we've had, where it blows northerly for weeks on end. And when you got a fishing boat, obviously, I mean, I'm not one to abandon things and worry, because I got a lot of investment there, but a lot of guys just tie up and I don't know. But it's a challenging environment in the winter to live here and work. And so whatever can be done to make it better. But all these businesses are important to where we can function as well too. And so I think anything that can be done to enhance that is good. And you can't. I remember when the plumbing shop left, it was brutal, because you need a fitting, or the fish house does what they can, but they can't handle like 2 or 3 inch plumbing. Where do you go for that? Well, we're running to Anchorage. Or you're trying to find somebody else that's going up and they can maybe pick it up for you and bring it back. And the Catalyst has picked up a little bit of that, but invariably, I need 5 3-inch 90s and they got 3 or whatever. But it's just, it's hard to do business when there's no business to work with. But I've talked to Tony about a lot of these problems too, and he's got some ideas about how to make things better in the harbor. It's going to take time, and it's probably 2 or 3 years out at best. I think 2 years would be a fast track if it could happen. And I think of things that have gone on in the past in the harbor that, if only, for example, when they put the sheet pile dock in where that 360 North is at, the harbor master at the time really wanted to keep that project going all the way across to the I-dock towards Seward Fish. And it was perfect. The equipment's here, the job's going on, and nope, we can't do it. It's kind of like the town's been run with, the first word you hear is usually no. And it's really sad, because you got the pile driver going, you got the equipment, and let's just keep going. And then you could have backfilled behind that. and we could have had all that beach frontage to work with. Now, we could have had a crane on a dock there, the uplands area would have been a little bit bigger, and everything would have been, but nope, couldn't do it. And I was talking to the harbor master at the time, I think it was Jim Beckham, and he wanted to do it, couldn't do it. And it all came down to personalities. Somebody didn't like whoever owned Jim Pruitt owned 360 at the time, and somebody didn't like him that was sitting in a chair somewhere that had the ability to say like that, and it's just so frustrating, because when you start with the word no, it makes it really hard. It's a real strong, there's only 2 letters in it, but it's a pretty powerful word, and it kills progress and kills, the ideas that can come out and make things better. So, anyway, just my 2 cents, so that's it.
Thank you, Jim. Okay,
That's it.
okay, wow. Well, ask the board if there's anything particularly that you want to pick out of this. Yeah.
I just have a question for the fish, the buyer. When you buy fish, does it get processed here?
It does not get processed here, so we are strictly unloading, doing our fish tickets, we're loading them up in trucks, and we're taking it over to the Kenai side, so it is still getting processed on the Kenai Peninsula, but we operate out of what used to be the Salamatov plant. Now it's all under the PacStar name and E&E name, and as you've seen with Upper Cook Inlet and the Cook Inlet politics, and we needed something to keep that plant going. I mean, it's the only plant on the river left, and so we wanted to keep it going. So we dipped our toe in the cod season. As Andy was saying, we pull out of Homer and we pull out of Seward. There's actually more cod comes out of Seward than comes out of Homer with the longline fleet that goes in. This year we lost some of those guys over to Kodiak. The resource kind of floats between the two. The prices were really good, so they can intercept that fish a little quicker around Kodiak before the season closes. So there was some guys that went over there. And then to Jim's point with the word no, when I went to the harbor master to find out whether we could offload there, it wasn't no, but it was, well, it's first come, first serve. We can't move any of these boats. And so I did what I had to do in order to run fish across this dock, and I put a boat at the end of the eye dock that had cranes, and I actually went across the deck of that boat, which pushed Andy out until we finally found the adjustment to move that boat in far enough, overlap some of these other boats so that he could still get in as well, and it was problematic, and it was tense, and it was because I did not get the help from the harbor to get in there. So I had to make my own rules. And then at that point, finally, they said, well, you got to move that boat out of there. We knew that the Copper River had bigger boats coming in, so we did. And then since then, we've found places to push our little operation in, and we've been able to offload at the same time as Copper River, but it's congested. You get 3-4 forklifts, you get a bunch of totes, you get cranes swinging, you get personnel, and that's on top of the boats that are tied there, moored there, paying for their moorage there, and wanting to work on their boats because it's the drive down. So it's, we did not get the cooperation of the city to start with. We kind of had to make our own rules. We figured out how to make it work, but it was complicated.
So your question was the fish being processed here or exported, you got an answer to that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
When you were in the Icicle building and there was would you say 3 or 4 other buyers in the building, were they processing?
I believe when it came to sablefish and halibut, they would run it through the building for those buyers. Halibut it's a pretty minimal production. They're able to put it into totes, put it on trucks, and it goes to the processor, the buyer's processing. But the sablefish was custom processed in town. And the last couple years, last year we could have been the top port for sablefish, but the Seward Fishery Plant didn't open up until May 15th. The season this year started March 26th. Silver Bay, to their credit, was open and ready to go March 26th, and they've been strong. There's been fish coming through there. We're definitely increasing what's coming through this port. And that's because Silver Bay opened up this plant that can handle some fish. That horseshoe seems like a waste when you can't park anything on the dock in front because they have priority use, and I understand that. And there's several cranes there, but I think, I don't know whether it's city-owned cranes or whether they're Silver Bay-owned cranes. I don't know whether Silver Bay knows. It's always been kind of a priority use, but is it maybe their own? They maintain it? It just, there needs to be some city cranes. There just needs to be some way for a buyer to come in, unload fish, clean up after themselves. Copper River hired from the local rental store, hired the wash truck, the wash down truck to come and just hit the dock because we don't have water out there. Now I understand winter time's tough. Water gets turned on when water gets turned on, but and same thing. He brought the big guys out to sweep the landing spot where we're loading trucks. So we're doing what we can to keep it clean and keep it presentable because it's a beautiful town. We want to keep it that way, and we want to be responsible for what we're doing.
Okay. We're going to keep gathering information, Kit. I guess I would ask anyone who wants to comment that I would ask that, I hate the expression, I use parables and metaphors all the time, but a rising tide lifts all boats. You guys in the industry probably know that's true, but sounds like if you had more fish buying activity, you would draw more people into Resurrection Bay, which would help everyone. Of course, you would compete for sales, and maybe Silver Bay or Seward's Fish, I still call it, they've got a processing plant there, maybe they got a higher price, maybe they can outbid you, but it still would bring the boats into town. And that's what's missing, boats coming into Seward?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, so Dana Betzger's not in town anymore, he's gonna unload fish. And I've heard that they're going to Cordova, or they're going to Kodiak, and they're bypassing Seward. Yeah, I mean, the more access I have to fishermen, because there's places where they know they can get taken care of. Ice House is another one that's really difficult. I have to come with totes, or I have to buy ice from people, where Homer, again, has a public ice house. And so then a fisherman knows he can go in there, get taken care of by a buyer, get his services, get his fresh water, get his ice, and get his bait, and go back out. And we don't have that here. So we haul everything from Kenai. So I bring my ice from Kenai, I bring my bait from Kenai.
That's a cost.
Yeah, no cold storage here. I have a 40-foot container that's on railroad property that I can plug in and run, for reefer systems for some bait. But everybody's bait is different. There's 3-4 different kinds of bait that people need in a pretty good quantity, and working out of a 40-foot reefer van is just not ideal.
Other questions? I have one for Abby. Are you still with us?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm here.
Yeah, hi Abby. You've heard the discussions, and you provided some information about some of the things that you do to support activities in the community, and it all comes from being an active and obviously a successful business. You have a lot of the things that others have talked about as missing. That you have your cranes, you have dock space, you have ice making facilities. I seem to remember that there was some sort of a synergy, some sort of a sharing or renting of your infrastructure to others besides your own fishermen. Is that true, or is that still the case?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we invested in the Seward plant. We bought that just last year and began operating it just last year in 2025. And so we own the plant and the equipment, and we've invested in the ice house and things like that. So we're investing in all of that infrastructure there locally. And I'm not entirely clear on all the details of how this has previously worked with sharing, but I've been tuning into the conversation. But the reality is we've expanded our groundfish program statewide and especially in Seward. We opened the plant, as he had mentioned, in March 26th. We're hungry and responsive to this fleet that's asking us to provide this early and competitive market. And so we've also formed some strategic partners with black cod customers in an effort to strengthen the market going forward. And so we're utilizing this invested infrastructure for this expanded effort, hoping to draw more fleet to deliver to our facility.
How, Abby, if I might, obviously everybody's always optimistic, but how do you see the future as essentially a self-owned, or you're owned by the fishermen? I don't think you call yourself a co-op, but do you see that model as having a long-term success?
Well, we're celebrating our 20th year anniversary, Mr. Chair, as a company that started 20 years ago. We are investing in a very strong, long future and committed to the fleet, especially those here in Seward. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but yes, we are investing because we believe we're in it for the long haul.
Okay, very good. Deb?
Well, I don't have a question for anybody in particular, I guess, but a comment, or maybe there is a question, because, so we have Silver Bay Seafoods that caters to their own members, and then we have the private fishermen who come in. For somebody who's not a commercial fisherman and doesn't have a strong background in fishing at all, I thought everybody got along pretty good down there, but it sounds like private fishermen need their own infrastructure, which obviously we're not providing in Seward, in the Seward Harbor, correct? So my next question is, if I look back in history, Bob Linville always comes in and he goes, we could be strong with commercial fishing here in Seward, but yet we haven't been. We used to be, and then it kind of fell off. Is it going to come back enough that Seward City could actually develop that and make it worthwhile? Because I know it would be for the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people who want to use it, but would there be more people that would come? If they build it, will they come?
Well, then, if I may.
Yeah, sure, I think we probably have several people want to weigh in.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a massive increase in sablefish quota over the last 5 years. And again, sablefish was a big part of this port. And we've had record seasons of Cook Inlet salmon the last couple of years, and that's projected forward as being very strong. And that can come over to Seward as well. Silver Bay, as they mentioned, are running tenders and moving them this direction and into some of their plants, and their plant in Kodiak and plants in Prince William Sound. Prince William Sound, again, is also accessible to this port. Yes, the fishing is strong. Fishing, there's a lot of opportunities with fishing, and it increases. And so I feel like Seward is missing out.
I think you're next, Jim. We'll get to Andy.
Yeah, I think it was a really good question, Deborah, and because what's happened here a lot is lately, of course, there's a upheaval, prices tanked, COVID and all that, but that, and then with the OBI mess, I think that's the only thing I can call it, was a mess. That plant basically...
Previous to Silver Bay.
Yeah, prior to, and then Silver Bay coming in is kind of resurrected that plant, but it's interesting because Silver Bay I think they almost, and I know this, they basically said they didn't see a future here when they first were, because they were deciding what they're going to take of the so-called icicle mess, or the OBI mess. So anyway, they're here, and I'm glad to see something's going on. It was very important because my fear was that plant was going to go away. And it's going to take a lot of money to put that plant back up, because when Icicle sold out to Payne Investment is an investment group. They were not putting a dime into taking care of anything. They were just sucking the money out of the company, and then they don't care. And they don't care about the industry either, because they're just an investment group. But anyway, now we're into another phase here, so I'm more optimistic now. But Seward has lost a lot of business. When boats come in and they can't tie up, and this has happened many times, well, we don't have room for you, or don't come in because we don't have room for you. You've got to have space, and it comes down to management of the floats and the harbor system too. You know, when you have a bayliner come in and tie up in a long transit area behind where I tie up in front of Ray's Restaurant, tie up in the middle, well, isn't it? That 30-footer all of a sudden took up 150 foot of dock space, because you got to have room to get a bigger boat in there. And there's places in a harbor that can handle that better. You know, it comes down to management. When a boat comes in, well, transient's transient, it's first come, first served. Well, yes and no. Let's use that transient space to the best advantage of the harbor, because there's other areas that a 30-foot can fit in, and use those other parts of harbor for that, but not your long docks. And it just comes down to management. And the management of the harbor has gotten better. It was pretty sad for quite a while, and it's really improved in my opinion. And I've been around here the whole time, so. And when, it's really important to be able to go in and communicate and talk to these guys, and I do pretty good at it, I think. I mean, I call Tony and just say, hey, Tony, and he's always open. We haven't always had that. And so that comes and goes with administration and whatnot too, I guess. But anyway, it's just, a lot of it's communication, a lot of it's just, not the first word being no, but let's figure out how to make it work. Let's take a look at it and see what we can do to make this better and make it work. Because that's what ultimately everybody wants.
Sure. Andy?
So, Deb, I just wanted to add a little, a context to your question. So, one of the, they were, E&E and Copper River and RBS were buying Pacific cod this winter, which Silver Bay is not buying that fish. And so, not this year. Not this year, but I think smaller, like E&E, number one, housing is real expensive in Seward, right? So Copper River has a facility in Anchorage, they have a facility in Kenai, and so it probably doesn't, I mean, Icicle didn't used to really process cod early either, and it's these smaller buyers that it makes maybe more financial sense. They have a year-round workforce in Anchorage, Copper River does, E&E, has housing and maybe a year-round workforce over there that can do the work, where, Silver Bay, it takes 100 people or something to run that plant, open air. It's a huge plant, whereas, when you're buying fish in the wintertime, it just works better to buy the fish and truck them to a plant, so you get a lot of utilization out of it. Because I know there was some questions like, well, is that fish processed here? No, it's not processed here, it's processed in the state, but there's a reason maybe why, that Icicle or Silver Bay is not, because for them, the math doesn't work, It's a scale, yeah, it's just smaller scale, but it's important, and because Silver Bay has a long-term lease on the docks, they don't have to let anybody use it, it's theirs, I believe they own the cranes, and they have preferential treatment, so supposedly if they're not using the docks, I think other people can. But all those docks most of them have got boats tied up to them, tenders that are not available anyway, except for the face of the dock. I just wanted to add that.
I appreciate it, thank you.
And we bought from 25 to 30 independent boats.
Right.
So for the whole group of you, and you mentioned something, Andy, that kind of interested me, and my ignorance will show here, but is any of this influenced by offshore processing versus onshore processing? Any of you guys impacted by the high seas fishing?
Most of that's done outside, down out.
So it's not a drain on the onshore processors, regardless of where.
Isn't there a little bit of quota that's...
There's a little bit.
There's a little bit that the factory, like when you see the big trawlers in here in the summertime,
Yeah.
sometimes you'll see like the factory trawlers, they'll come in and unload at SMIC. Those guys are,
Dock.
they're catching, they're offshore, or they're,
But that's intermittent, that's not really.
and they're not cutting in,
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't impact the area that we're talking about.
and it doesn't impact the quota either. I mean, that fish is not, it's not like it's taken from us.
Yeah.
It's allocated.
So I had, we're not gonna be able to go on forever with this, but Rhonda, you gave us some handouts, and on that, I'm a little confused at a graph. This is the one with the pie chart. It looks to me like there's declining revenue from 2022 through 2025. I don't know, but at the same time, the number of taxpayers, and I assume that's taxpayers that are involved with the fishery, has been relatively consistent.
Correct, those are licensed fishery businesses. So we actually have two licenses. We have a floater license and a direct marketer license. Kit's a processor, Silver Bay's a processor, they have several licenses. So those are licensed fisheries businesses and the taxpayer units.
So how would I read this chart? Is this showing, you talked about a good harvest last year in Cook Inlet, but this tends to show a...
Well, yeah, what's happened here is the prices have dropped, and you're looking at, coming off of COVID, it was they got pretty high, and then, of course, there was a lot of infusion of money, and it was too arbitrarily high, and then it's just been going down. There's been there's definitely been a drop in quota on the halibut. It's been getting hit pretty hard, and but that's a high value, low volume fishery. And these taxes are based on raw fish value. It's the vessel price.
All of the species? Or
all of the species,
okay.
correct.
So,
Yes.
can you relate, pardon me, Jim, go ahead.
Basically, what happened was the dockside values of the fish went down. The fish are still there, but
So you're getting the same tonnage roughly for
yeah,
less
we're getting
money?
the same tonnage for less money, and now we're looking at less, really not much more money. We've been on a slump on market prices for some time. A little bit of an uptick happening on salmon, actually started upticking last year. Blackcod's upticked a little bit, but
Is that marketing? I mean, Abby talked earlier about a marketing strategy, but...
I don't know, it seems to me, I've been doing this over 50 years now, and it seems to me there's a lot more of, people want more for less. They want cheaper. They want to pay less money, but they want what they want. And I think it's human nature, I guess. So I don't know. Well, also markets have changed, like the Asian markets, Japanese, they're not paying high prices. They're not, there's been a lot of changes. It's an international thing, and domestic and international, and both. We took 20 years to get Blackcod and Ray's restaurant. 20 stinking years. And you'd think in a town like this, they would want to put Alaskan seafood on there. But it took 20 years. That's pretty sad, and that's right here in this town. And now that market is finally, Blackcod starting to move through the American marketplace. But it's incredible the work that goes into trying to push things and then trying to get the value to where it makes sense. I don't know if anything makes sense right now.
Well,
Fuel prices.
the other thing you're looking at too is the fishermen are kind of like the last.
We get the
Everything
leftovers.
goes. Yeah, we kind of get the leftovers because you got that whole supply chain, which can include 6 to 10 steps or 6 to 10 hands in the pie, and so. When you see it, what the fishermen get, and then you go to the grocery store and you see that it's like, $37 or whatever, it's just like, wow, how does that measure?
Get $5.
So there's a lot of people that are grabbing it, whether it be brokers or the the big points are the transportation and the logistics. You can't deny that, but then you got all these sales folks and administration and a lot of other people in the supply chain that are grabbing onto it. So the fishermen end up getting kind of the the last tidbit of that, and so, and that's where you've had an advent of more direct marketers, a fisherman kind of like, hey, I'm just gonna go market my own, and that's a whole other business model of its own, and it takes a lot of work too. And so,
Fish tax is based on the actual dock site value.
yeah, and so that did drop, and,
You gotta-
yeah. And then there were some seasons, I mean, I'm mostly thinking about blackcod, where we had a time where the fish, all of it didn't get caught because of weather, and there's those things, so maybe the whole, the actual allocation didn't fully get harvested for whatever
Well,
reason.
prices get down so low, you can't afford it.
Yeah, there's that too.
And then
Well, that's happened.
it happens,
Yeah.
and it happened recently, just.
And then there were processors closing down.
And processors.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
processors
And look what
might have-
happened.
The season goes to December
The snowball.
7th, and September 1st, we're not buying any more fish.
Right.
Where that guy goes, go.
Yeah, where you go, you end up finding another.
But you look at the price of, cod, it went from, isn't it up to 70 cents this year? And it's been more
Okay.
like 25, 40.
So,
Anyway,
we have some more questions from the board?
One question I have, so given the species that we've been talking about and the harvesting, where it occurs, is Seward positioned as well as Homer or Kodiak or any other port for receiving? Are we in a better position?
I would say it's better positioned because we have a road system and it's closer to Anchorage.
Yeah.
And being able to, the airports, flying and supplies and everything else. Seward's that's why Seward was so key back after the earthquake. They had to get this plant going again because Seward is central in the Gulf of Alaska. I think in my opinion, I think it's the most important port in the whole Gulf wrap around from Aleutian Islands all the way down to Southeast, and I fish everywhere. But it's, you have a highway connection, you can run truckloads of fish down, and what's the name mentioned with Silver Bay, hauling fish back south has a big benefit on those truckloads of goods coming north, because that helps defray the cost. Everything's interrelated, it's not, and all these industries and everything's interconnected in one way or another.
So I'm going to throw one more, well, maybe two things, but put them together. One of the things that I hope to gather is what Seward can do to help the industry. And I'll preface that by saying, when I came to town, Seward Fish, and I still call it that, was a thriving, and Anderson both were thriving fishing businesses. And the population swelled around those places, and you could smell the industry in town. That's sort of different, and I was shocked recently, as the chair of this board, to go and look at the harbor and see that the north end of the harbor by what's now Silver Bay was almost asleep.
Yeah.
And Vice Chair Atwood mentioned concern about the fishing industry, so we started digging into it. Well, you've mentioned some things, for instance, harbor management of boats, and when this board has spent a lot of time, when Deb was chaired, and since, as how to manage the spaces in the harbor, sizes of boats, the costs of the boats, and I think we even talked about long-term versus short-term tie-ups. That's something that might be done relatively quickly, as far as working with that. But the other issues that we talked about, now the most recent one is Bob Linville has pushed, and I got a letter recently about a drive-down dock. So Silver Bay doesn't need that, but is that something the rest of you would be in favor of? That's number one. Number two, the dock, which this board spent a lot of time endorsing, the dock crane, had been authorized but never moved forward on. So would those two things be a big advantage to your activities?
Back when we were putting a new harbor in, that was the time to put that drive-down dock in. And it didn't happen. I don't know where you could put it today.
There's an idea that it could be incorporated on the north wall of the uplands, of the south uplands. There's a drawing, a citizen sent a drawing. Bob Linville, as an engineer, has a conception of how that might work. If it could happen, Jim, would it have an advantage? I know you got a bigger boat, but the smaller boats that come in, maybe?
Well, it's good for any boat, actually. When you can drive like a welding truck or whatever up alongside, or even a boom truck to lift a sailboat mast or anything. Anytime you can access a dock, or right up next to a boat, it's good for everybody. And
Is that area, is there enough room in that area?
I don't know if there's enough room in that area, but
Well, I'm not trying to engineer
I know,
here.
I'm just, but Tony's got some pretty interesting ideas on if we could bulkhead and then backfill up against the north part, on the northeast side as well, on where the reduction plant area is at. And then also take that IDOC area, and I know it needs a crane on it. It's needed one for a long time, but the dock has to be. Dock has to be. Have to make sure the dock can handle the job too, and all that costs money and time. And I think Tony's got some really good ideas, but it's gonna take a couple of years to implement, I think.
Well, hopefully we can review some of the comments that you've given us today with Tony.
Yeah.
And Norm would be back, and I'm sure Norm has a history in some of this, and, working with the city administration to understand some of the concerns of the commercial users. And I think I've gotten a lot out of this.
But I think that area, like these tenders that are just tied up, and basically, it just kills all that dock area. And those guys nobody's around, and there's a huge amount of dock space that's unavailable and unusable from last year, I think from September to, well, they're still there, it'll be, who knows.
If you don't have a drive-down dock, then you gotta have one.
Yeah, you have to have
a hard dock.
You have to have a place to be able to get to.
You gotta have some way to get your
Right.
materials down.
That sounds like a management problem, I think Nick brought that up earlier.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's anything in regulations that would prevent that. I don't know if, Deb?
So when was the last time this board went over the harbor policies?
A while ago.
We used to do it like annually, or.
Yeah,
it
a
seemed
lot of
like-
things have changed.
It seems like that's something that should be done, or we could do. And then look again, back to the original drawings and, of the design of that end of the harbor, the north end over there. But the policies, when you're talking about boats tying up and just, that's part of that document.
I felt like the tariffs were not adhered to. So when I went in there and asked about use, I was told, well, we can't move, we can't do. And then I think somebody started reviewing the tariffs and realized we can't keep that tied up. We have to make that available. And then that was pushing, but they used that as ammunition against me to push the boat out that I had in there because I had no other recourse. But I don't think we're necessarily adhering to those tariffs.
So that's kind of the question I have on all of this, that's come to me is, who is in charge of ensuring that these docks are being used the way they intended? Is that the harbor master's office that is in charge of?
Yeah, we do our best to utilize the space as good as it's intended to be used. Some things are a challenge, considering they are transient spaces. Like these guys say, that's part of the problem. A lot of the people, we don't either have the infrastructure or the space available to put some of these larger vessels. There's limited space for lengthy sized vessels, and of course a lot of these guys require power, which narrows that area down even more. I think there's only 2 docks that have, I and T and then Z that have power on them.
For transient.
That are transient, spaces, so. But, getting vessels moved in early March, that's part of the problem that these guys are alluding to is some of these owners, they're not from Seward, they're from out of town, and to get them down here and get a crew with them to move their vessels to where in the harbor is the challenge.
So as it sits now, if somebody comes into this dock, and again, I don't know a lot about this or anything really about any of this, but my understanding, from what I'm understanding, is as it is now, this dock that everyone's referring to, if you come in and you're the first one there and you pay your dues or your fee every month, there's no requirement for you to move it,
At the moment, none.
And so this group is asking is for there to be some sort of requirement,
Yeah,
correct?
change of policy.
Okay.
Yeah, and in defense of the harbor master, we haven't done this for years. There's not been, when I first moved here in '97, there was activity on that high dock. There were regular buyers on that dock. There was even an ice house on that dock. And that hasn't happened for years. So this is a little bit, it's not exceptional. I want this to be the new norm. But
we're trying to make everything.
To make those adjustments this winter was a little bit tough. It kind of caught you guys off guard. But moving forward.
I think this is something that we can, the expectation is if you're gonna park here, you need to be out or be able to have your vessel moved by such and such a day, because this is what's gonna happen. Moving forward, I think that's something that we could try to.
I think to bring this together, as the board member Alderman mentioned and everyone else, if this board can facilitate communication that Jim indicated and all you all have indicated, that may be the problem. And sometimes people are talking around something or using a different level of communication and talk past each other. And I understand what you say, no. That's, as a parent, I think that was my go-to response. But you learn a little bit by listening.
Yeah, well, it's just like I stepped out of the room because I had a phone call from the harbor because I'm up in the shipyard trying to adjust when I get back in the water and just keep, anyway, we got it solved, but it just takes communication and staying on top of it, so.
The one thing that didn't get mentioned necessarily was safety. It was touched on, but safety is a big issue as well. And a boom truck on a dock operated by, they're licensed people, but they aren't vetted by the city, they aren't vetted by whatever. If we had a crane there, it wasn't that long ago that the boom truck went off the dock.
Right.
Off an icicle and someone died, And so,
Happened a couple.
Safety.
Yeah. I've seen that problem, and we've talked about it a lot, about the crane. It's not a cheap and easy thing, but we'll definitely try to move that along. And just to kind of close this up, Abby, thank you for being patient with us and bringing the information. If there's anything else you'd like to add, I would say that I'm very appreciative of your effort to reopen that plant. I think it's good for the city of Seward and all of us, and hopefully very successful for you guys. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and for the board for allowing us to be here and give an update and kind of more formally introduce ourselves to this advisory board. We are also pretty excited to be here. I did have just one teeny tiny comment that while Silver Bay is a fisherman-owned seafood processing company, our fishermen are independent operators. They are independent businessmen. They're competitive with each other, and I appreciate the discussion on all the things that you guys are considering, and the fishermen's focus as it relates to that decision-making process is a good place to start. So again, thanks for having us here, and please feel free to reach out to Silver Bay anytime you have a question.
Okay. Thank you all. All right. So we'll move on with business. Unless there's a closing, we've heard you guys, I don't want to shut down any real good comments. All right.
I just have one short disclaimer on this little white paper that UFA is putting out. I did contact them. I think there is an error on the tax revenue for the Kenai Peninsula Grow. It looks inflated or it's not expressed properly, so I'm checking that number because it's more than the overall state tax. So anyway, just wanted to make you aware of that so you didn't get too excited about it.
If you have a correction, if you could get it to the clerk.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to, we have no unfinished business, resolutions, new business. There are no resolutions. We do have a discussion item for the Marine Industrial Center, but I don't see, is there something in the packet about that?
That was from last meeting. Norm, board member Regis had asked for us to speak about it this meeting.
Do we have anything in the packet that?
No, nothing was provided.
Okay, one thing that I don't want to bring back that whole group, but we never talked about how SMIC might either assist or coordinate with the commercial activity. I know that at some time I've talked to people who who did run all the way over to SMIC for a crane operation, pull an engine or something, which could be problematic, but it really wasn't designed as a commercial fishing dock, I think, but there is a dock over there, there is a business over there now. I think Anderson's went over there, didn't they? Or whatever.
Pacific Seafood, yeah.
Yeah, they moved from this side of the bay over there, and that's gonna be a work in progress for a while. That's an expensive, it's an expensive, a very expensive move. I don't know. I question if it made.
What's happening with
What's going on?
the empty building now?
What's that?
What's happening with the one they moved out of?
Well, the whole plan, I think, is to put that waterfall across in a flume over the road, which is gonna dump all that fill and it's gonna go away. It's already, the dredging that goes on down there to keep it going is, when I first came here, Deb, I tied up to that dolphin down there. That's now only about 6 feet of the top of it sticking out of it, all the, kind of gives you an idea what's been going on. So, and what they're doing right now is they're operating across the bay, but they don't have an ice house over there, so they're still using the ice house on this side for now. And it just dumped almost $1 million into that ice house just months before this all started. And they gotta build an ice house over there, they gotta build a cold storage, you got Coast Guard going in over there, it's just, I look at the whole situation over there, the float system, I'm guessing that's gonna be Coast Guard. The North Dock, where that crane's at, you can't get to it anyway, because there's always somebody laying there. And it's a wrong crane for what we're talking about here anyway, but it's a heavy-duty, slow-moving crane, and we need to be able to do things fast. But we did unload on that dock years ago when there was a buyer on the I dock, there's a buyer over there, plus you had Seward Fish and you had RBS. And I remember unloading years ago to a buyer on that side one time. There was no crane, but they had a boom truck set up. And so things can happen, but boy, the whole area across the bay, there's been so many changes going on, and with the Coast Guard going in over there, I don't know, it's gonna be, I would say that North Dock's probably not gonna be available.
It's pretty jam-packed for...
Yeah, and then that float, there's tenders laying on that float over there right now, big tenders. They've been sitting there all winter, and I'm betting that that's gonna go away. It'll be strictly Coast Guard. So you'll have the plant in there and the travel lift. And it's nice, I unloaded there a couple of weeks ago. It was really nice because we didn't have to worry about somebody throwing a big wake at us and slamming us against the dock down here, or the weather coming up, because that, it's breakwatered off over there. That part's nice. However, you gotta drive 9 miles by road to go back and forth, and you can't just jump uptown to get something because it's too far away, or it's almost 4 miles by boat from there to here. Start driving back and forth a few times, it's like, I noticed that.
With a crew.
Yeah.
Well, we had talked, I think, early about when the Seattle fleet was talking about using SMIC. We talked about a whole lot of development in there that would have, I think, facilitated commercial fishing. It never happened, or hasn't happened yet.
Was that when one of the Native Corps was talking about?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
well, it was talk, there was a bargaining chip for Seattle.
That was a bargaining chip is all it was. They had no intention of ever.
But nonetheless, there was a plan and a concept.
Yeah, and actually that plan, it was ironic because after 9/11, the Coast Guard came up with a plan. They wanted to come in here, and somehow the Native Corp got a hold of that plan, and that was the identical plan that they were shopping, saying that we're gonna do this, but it was all a means of saying we're gonna do this, so they were trying to get more pollock quota for themselves from another group. Is all that
Because they were
was.
Seattle-based, and they were trying to say they're
But they,
Alaska-based.
well, they're Native Corps, where are they really based?
Yeah.
They tie those big slabs up down in Seattle anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah, Nick.
As a buyer, I mean, I would work out of that, because it's got a protected harbor, there's places for them to tie up, and actually, for building infrastructure, I mean, you got that big, long, linear dock there, I mean, tie-ups would need to be different for smaller boats, things like that, but, I I mean, there's availability for growth. You could put a cold storage out there. There is upland storage. There is, all that. My biggest concern would be the Nash Road, especially around McDonald's area and the congestion that sees during sockeye fishing, snagging, and the travel, the amount of traffic that's on that road and putting big trucks in and out. That's the only concern I have. And this time of year, it's a 75%, so then I have to load my.
You're talking semi-trucks, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
semi-trucks.
because I gotta get the product from one point to the other, but I wouldn't mind working in that harbor because it is protected. The boats, they need a protected area. It works really well for that.
Long-term.
In my personal opinion, Bruce, I think that RBS should have got more concessions out of the city for going over there. I don't think they got enough
I was surprised
concessions
that
because it's going to be really expensive. Building an ice house, building a
Keep our
cold
fingers
storage,
crossed.
and just on and on and on.
Keep our fingers crossed.
I know, I hope it all works out. But
Okay.
yeah, it's a heavy lift.
All right, well, that, I think, is our SMIC discussion. Thank you. Now, in the packet today, in the laydown, there was a discussion for the July term expiration dates, and currently I thought there was an earlier discussion about the terms, our board terms. Several of us, our terms expire in July this year. Deborah and myself and Melissa, you too, the three of us. So was that an earlier edition of the agenda?
It is on the agenda, but you have to lay down in front of you that states what, the recommendations are, because yes, they are expired in July, and you guys are on hiatus at that time. And what our recommendations are is to move it to January, so that it's right in the middle of your PACAB 9 months, so it wouldn't be an issue with us having to have a special meeting to do it, or having to push it to September. But it's something that you guys need to discuss and decide if you want to move it.
Okay. Do we need a motion to discuss that?
No, this is just discussion. So
Yeah, okay.
this isn't making a motion, this is just discussion.
This would be an adjustment to the code.
Yes, so we would have to make this adjustment on code, and then, of course, then we will do that at a different date. We could, it's possible we could do it at the next meeting to make that change, because then we would also have to take it to council, I believe, for them to approve the code if we make that change to the code.
Okay, so last sentence is all feedback is appreciated. I'll go ahead and, Dwayne?
Yeah, I guess one question I have is, you have current board members. I mean, are terms going to be extended? I guess this would be applied for all incoming board members and in the future, or what, I guess?
I think it would change from here, if we do that change starting next May, everybody who expires after that will then be moved to January, and then it would be continued to January.
Okay.
So that wouldn't include.
So theirs would be extended, if we approved it and it got approved by the next meeting, theirs would be extended to January.
So instead of it being ending in July of 26, we would go through
To January.
To January 26.
Yes.
Okay.
So you'd lay that out in a resolution? Okay.
Yes.
So I would remind the board that for that to be effective, the applications would need to go in about 2 months early to be able to make it on the city docket for approval. So any new member?
Are we talking about by May or by next January?
Whenever one's term is up,
Right.
you'd need to get your application in about 2 months ahead of time.
A month and a half, yeah. I think 30 days is the time we have to publicize it. So we do have to publicize the opening, and we have to publicize it for 30 days. So if we know someone is expiring in January of this year, for sure I would, you'll get the notice will be sent out 30 days prior to that, so in December. So you would start putting in your applications to renew yours in December. or any new applicant as well.
And that wouldn't crowd the clerk's calendar for December?
No, we actually talked about that, and January would be a really good time for the clerks to handle that. If we were to do it in September, with elections and everything coming up and AVO stuff coming up, that would make elections really busy. So we recommended the January because that's more lighter stuff on our end.
Comments?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I would agree with the clerk's recommendation myself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would too.
Well, do you put that in the minutes?
Yes.
Jody? Okay. So, all right, so that is discussion of term expiration dates. Then information, reminder of meetings. Regular meeting is scheduled for May 20th. Why does it say page 26? Oh, that's a calendar, isn't there? And then if there's no other comments there, we'll go ahead and go to citizen comments. And anyone in the audience that has follow-up comments or? All right. If you'd state your name and inside, outside city limits.
Nathan Straubinger, inside city limits. So definitely I'd like to echo all the comments with the sports fishing and the ocean fishing. And with the harbor, there's definitely lots of user groups, and just the congestion in I and J, for future, it's like, where are those bigger boats going to go? And, Z-Dock, with the Coast Guard gone, expansion to the east isn't really possible anymore because the cruise ships going in there. And, I wish I would have spoke up last year. It's like the cruise ship could have been moved farther east and keep the existing loading dock and then open up to the east from Z, open up more 40-foot spots, open up more 50-foot spots. When space is limited, it's limited. And so, just in the future, trying to be more, yes-oriented and, be looking at the bigger picture. There's a few discussions about the drive-down dock, and instantly, oh, no, well, the tides, big thing said, oh, it's not going to be possible. But, the north side, south side, Tony has lots of great ideas, but, as a group coming together and looking at some of the different options and really opening up that space. So, for example, the railroad has now cleared out where the existing north side where Exit Marine was, and being able to expand that parking, the coin term double wishbone parking. So more parking on that side, or expand out. Now that the coal tipple's gone, sort of rest in peace. I didn't get, it's like a historic monument. Some say it's eyesore, some say it's historic. But now that it's gone, without sort of any discussion, the break wall and being able to move east, but without that proper planning and forethought, now more expansion for some of those bigger boats isn't possible. So, it's like, it's just sort of heartbreaking when in the past there could have been expansion of the cranes and more, with all the fishing and cannery, there could have been a crane, but then, just too much red tape, too much bureaucracy, and couldn't agree on a plan, or just not enough planning. And so now, a couple years later, looking at the American Memorial and new harbor master build, same thing. The sport fishing, there's going to be a lot of friction, and the trailer parking is the biggest issue there. And trying to send emails and trying to sort of orchestrate that, but November saw the plan, and Class A CDL driver, 10 years on the slope. I've only been here 5 years, but literally that part of the harbor, I have 5 boats in the harbor, and that's our home, and that's our little area. And there's no homeowners association, and those 60 slips need the parking. The trailer parking, if all of a sudden there's only a handful of parking spots that are only pull through, and then the rest you have to back into, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So, just looking at the parking scheme for that, looking at design plans, Bob Liddell specifically was trying to put that parking into the, transforming S-Dock, and, it can be engineered and it's a good spot, but obviously, for a project this size, really got to break it down. You can't have a harbor master building, lease spots, and all the other infrastructure. And, basically learning from sort of past friction, if the cruise ship dock is demoed, it's millions and millions of dollars to demo. And so, looking at a great success story on not demoing stuff. So, ships moved where Catalyst, and then Catalyst moved and got a bigger building eastward, and then now we have Mermaid's Grotto. So Mermaid Grotto, good storefront, right in front of the railroad depot, and with that moving and coordination, great success. And now, Coast Guard's on the other side, so there's definitely lots of potential, but we have to really look at a 30,000-foot view and open ideas and, say yes, maybe, let's look at the engineering, because, the classic change orders, you don't want the change orders, and you're trying to avoid spending lots of extra money and stuff, but a simple project, it's like, okay, we're going to redo the dockway, and then about 3 weeks later, oh, well, we need 120 grand more for another change order because we didn't plan it, and so it's like a small dock walkway, another 120,000 change order, when it's like, mark my words, if we don't look at the Uplands project closer, there's going to be change order out of change order, and it's like the deforestation. Once you cut the trees down, they're gone. And so the harbor views and/or leading the drive-down dock area, if that drive-down dock has lease spots or doesn't have a little bit of pre-planning, it's going to be like the harbor when we didn't build it right in the first place. So just looking at the plans a little bit closer, definitely making sure that the parking scheme, you have pull-through parking and not have to force people to back up, and just taking a closer look at it. And there's still time, 35% design, we have time to still change it, but we need to start looking at it closer before it's too late.
Okay, thank you. Was this your letter that you sent us?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay.
And zero response, but don't want to be the squeaky wheel, but let's look at it, and I'd love to discuss more.
Okay, thank you. Okay, board member comments. We'll start with board member Draper.
I appreciate all the commercial fishing insight and things that you talked about. Yeah, I got a call from a commercial fisherman, or I ran into a commercial fisherman in town that said they had a great trip out there and caught a lot of black cod, and they were real happy, it seemed. So, yeah, there are some fishermen around still, and man, it'd be cool to see a lot more. I like it. That's all I got.
Double D needs them too.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll swing over to board member Alderman.
Well, I would really like to see if we could get, put it on the record, back into reviewing the harbor policy. And just, since it's been quite a long time, there's a lot of things that need to be reviewed and looked at. So, and that took a long time. It took several meetings, as I recall, that we would just go through it. And it could address some of those issues about transient parking and different uses. Since I've been involved in Seward for 30 years in the harbor, so it's not as long as some of you guys, but I think that the city and the harbor and the community have done a pretty good job in trying to figure out how to make tourism and commercial fishing and recreational fishing work together in the harbor. And it's not easy because you have three completely different groups. And it seems sometimes that one of them is taking over and one of them is being left behind and the other one is kind of just there, all the time. And we need to continue, keep working on that. And I think with all the ideas of this board and the community bringing them together, I think this is the most comprehensive discussion on commercial fishing I've ever heard sitting on this board, and I really appreciate it. I think if Seward could get back some of the commercial fishing aspects and bring those boats back so that they really are here, I have to say I love the comment about it's a 9-mile road, and I see that there could be some problems with the logistic of the road, but I'll never forget one time when I went over there when Andy Anderson was building his house, and I stood out on his deck and I looked over and I go, wow, this is a beautiful house, but man, I wouldn't want to live here. It's so far away from town. And I mean, come on, everything is relative. I mean, if you're in Homer, look at that darn spit you have to drive up to go to the grocery store. Yeah. So, and Rhonda, if your mother had gotten her black cod recipe out there sooner, I think it would have been in the restaurant years ago. So, anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Board Member Groom. Thank you. First, I want to thank Dwayne for the very detailed report on the railroad. It was really good, thank you. And then, want to thank the commercial fishermen for coming in. Over the years, I've wrote many letters to our representatives in Juneau, our Senator Murkowski and Sullivan, and the ones that came before them about commercial fishing. They're 60% of our statewide hours where I work. In the export side of it, out of Dutch Harbor and Kodiak, 100% support all of the commercial fishing. And however we can make your guys' lives better here in town, I'm all for it. And I will sign any letter, any support, anything I can do to help you guys. We should be making their jobs easier, not harder, for sure. They have a hard enough job already. And that's all I got to say about the commercial fishermen. But if I could, one thing off topic, I wanted to thank the fire department and the local volunteer ambulance and the EMTs. We had an emergency a couple weeks ago on the freight dock where a gentleman had a heart attack in a confined space. And their quick response time, their professional attitude, all of it saved that man's life. He is now home with his family, going to make a full recovery. And I just had to take a moment just to thank them. What they did was amazing, and it was right in front of me. So I can't say enough of how amazing they all are. I don't know all their names, or I'd thank them. And with that, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Member Sutter.
Well, that's great to hear that the person that had the heart attack survived, and big thank you to our first responders. They're super important, so I just want to echo that. And I want to thank this group, the Commercial Fishermen Group, for coming in and talking. I lived in Seward. I moved here in 1988, and I remember when I was a kid, but I remember moving here and commercial fishing being a big deal. Most of the people I went to high school with, I think a lot of them worked for you, Jim, would leave school and go fishing and then come back, and it was just a big part of life. It was not a big part of my life, but I remember it being a big part of life in Seward. I went into banking instead, but even in my role as a banker, commercial fishing is a big part of the economy, and I appreciate the information, Rhonda, that you presented on how much it contributes to not only the state's economy, but to the local economy as well. I learned a lot here today. I agree with Board Member Alderman that a review of the harbor policy is a great idea. I I've been on this board, I think this is my second year. I can't recall ever having done that. Maybe we did in the very beginning and I was just so new I don't remember it, but I think it's a great place for us to start. As I sat here and listened to everybody talk today, the question that went through my head is what can we do to help you? And I think that's a really great start, especially with the issues with the congestions on the dock. Again, issues that I'm not familiar with, having not lived them, but hearing what you've had to say about them has kind of opened my eyes to that. Really appreciative of Silver Bay Seafoods coming to Seward and kind of revamping that facility as well. And I want to kind of echo what Jim Hubbard said earlier about the lacking of the essential services, the lumber yard, the plumbing store, the hardware store. I see that every day. I talk to people every day that have those same sentiments. I don't know what can be done about it. You can't force somebody to open a business, even if it's needed. You can't force someone to stay. You can't stop them from closing down. But I do agree. Part of the reason I wanted to be a part of this board is the economic, port and commerce part of it, is seeing those services come back to Seward. How can we fix the housing issues and how can we attract those businesses that can help us? I know my husband, who is a contractor, he had frustration just yesterday trying to find something he needed for a small job, and now we have to make a trip to Kenai or Anchorage to get it. And of course, Fish House is first place he goes, and they can't carry everything, and we all recognize that. So whatever we can do to make those services or attract those services, I guess I should say, back to Seward is important. And with that, I guess that's all I got. So.
Okay. Vice Chair Atwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to follow up on Board Member Grimm's mention of emergency responders. We're really fortunate. We've had many responses over the years at the Railroad Terminal Reserve, and oftentimes, though the ambulance will come, the fire department will come, and we haven't had anything terrible happen, but it's a comfort to know that they're able to respond as they do. And this serves as an example. This crew member on the Tug Island Explorer that was helped when needed. And thinking about all of this great input that we got regarding the commercial fishing industry, infrastructure, absolutely. Fee incentives, taxation, I don't know, maybe. Management, long-term dockage versus active loading priority, there are some things to discuss, ways to operate that might facilitate some users who feel they're underserved. Clearly, it'd be nice to have more. It would just be nice to have more space, more cranes. But anyway, this is a great conversation, and it's the way we start moving things forward. And anyway, that's all I have.
Okay, well, I think the rest of our board has said a great deal of what I would have said. I appreciate this discussion, and I will credit Vice Chair Atwood for proposing the idea that this board take up the concern with commercial fishing in the town. As I said in the beginning, when it came to Seward, commercial fishing was the King Kong. Well, Louisiana Pacific was here as well, LP. Yeah, there were a few industries, but fishing was very, very important. And I was really surprised recently to see how Seward fish on the north end of the dock, which was the stable, had kind of went to sleep. It sounds, after listening to Abby and everyone else, that they're still life in the old girl. So we'll get to see that rebirth. There were things in Seward, things change. I think I've been running into that more and more. But the city of Seward used to have Dreamland Bowl, used to have a movie theater, used to have a lot of things that are not here anymore. 3 hardware stores. My time went back on the board when Kerry Anderson was the harbor master. And, there were a lot of changes since then, and I'm okay with change. I think the thing we don't want to ever forget is where we came from, and try to keep a vision of where we want to go. That's not automatic, and it takes coming together as a group, and I would say that over a period of time that I've been able to participate with PACAB, we've been that group, or at least one of them. And I'm really cheered. I've said before that we have 2 young members that grew up here in Seward that are now participating in this board. We'll learn more and more how they can contribute. I myself have done what I can. I'll be 80 in the fall, and I think I will not reapply in July. And I will miss the May meeting, so this is my last meeting after all these years. It's a little bittersweet, but in going out with a discussion like this, and with an opportunity to really have, I think, an impact on something that's as important as commercial fishing, I'll give you all cheers, and I'll do what I can to stand in the wings and cheer you on, but all in all, we got a great town, and compared to others that I've seen, Seward stands high. So, that's all I got.
Thank you, Bruce.
And I'll take a motion, Ryan, for the administration?
I appreciate being able to sit in, if only once every in a blue moon, but I appreciate the commercial fishermen coming in and letting us know what needs to happen and how we can try to work alongside you guys. And we want to make things work. Obviously, we have a very diverse group of users, and we'll do our best to make. We try to make it work for everybody, and sometimes it is a challenge, but it's something that we're definitely looking at and trying to see how we can make this all work going forward. So appreciate y'all that need to sit in and be a part of this. I definitely learn a lot.
Excellent. All right, well, with that, look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, we had a good long meeting. We're adjourned at 2:12.
So